Hello, I'm John Thomas Dodson. Thank you for joining me today for Free to Play, Learning to Play. Now that we've learned how to get free, I'd like to focus a bit on learning to play, and particularly how we play in relation to making art. What does it mean to create art, to be in that joyful, playful, creative state, but also, as musicians naturally, playing with others and learning how to work collegially as well as creatively. So thank you for being here today, and I hope you come away with something that's valuable for your life. You might remember that I taught you Anapana meditation. That's meditation on the breath. It was a simple idea. We closed our eyes, we closed our mouth, we found the touch point inside the nostril where we could feel the breath going in and out. We set the mind right on that place as the focus of our concentration, and then we just continued to do that. If the thoughts ran away from us, we suddenly found ourselves realizing that we had wandered, and the awareness kicks in and tells us that we were meditating, and it brings us back, and then we focus again on the breath. That's Anapana, and it's the extension of that over time that I want to work on today, but also to do it in a way that might be a bit unique for musicians. Rather than simply watching the breath today, I'd like to give each out-breath a number. So the first out-breath, 1. Take a breath naturally in. Don't do anything strange. And your second out-breath, 2. And your third out-breath, 3. All right, we have the idea, except in counting in sequence here, we're not doing what I would like to do today, because I would like to start with 1 as a complete unit, and then 1, 2, 1, again, all on the out-breath. So that would be 1, 1, 2, 1, and we would go up each time. 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, and finally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So let's do that as a meditation first, shall we? I'll say them out loud from me on my out-breath, so you can mimic that, but practice this on your own at your own pace. And don't try to control the breath or match my speed or anything else. Just catch the idea, which is that we're giving ourselves a way to focus, to extend our focus time, to extend the amount of time we're in Anapana. 1. 1. 2. 1. 1. 2. 3. 2. 1. 1. 2. 3. 4. 3. 2. 1. 1. 2. 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And so what we've been able to do is to give ourselves an object, the breath, but also a little task within the breath that's different. The first time we taught this, it was all about the touch, feeling the breath. This time I used the number in addition to the touch. You can still keep your mind placed on the breath, I'll call it irritation point, the place where you can feel the breath going by. Or if you're able to, as you develop this, move your mind outward toward the end of the nostrils, toward the opening of the nostril, and place your mind there. Later, you may be able to actually feel the air as it's resting on the top of the lip, the little skin just below the opening of the nostrils. Even better. So you can develop this over time. This is definitely a process, but today we're beginning, if you will, with the C major scale. We're just beginning this process. What I like about that concentration exercise is that you can extend it further as you begin to develop this skillful approach to concentration. When your concentration has grown a bit in strength, you can go up 6, 7, and 8. Finally, you might try removing the numbers entirely and only working with pitch instead. If you did that, you would do do, do, re, mi, re, do, etc. And in this case, we would have gone all the way up to sol and back down. And maybe later you'll go up the full octave. Finally, you might extend the octave more. The goal here isn't a competition with yourself. It's just to teach your mind how to stay still longer, and these are just techniques for doing that. So I'd like to actually do that one on do, re, mi, but this time we'll do it at the keyboard itself. So take your breath in, and then on the first note, you'll take that note on your out breath. Do. Take the in breath. Do. In breath. Re. On your next exhalation, do. And so on. What I like about that second way is that there's no rhythm in it. You're not feeling any kind of pulse as you go up or down the scale. You only choose to change the note when in the natural course of breathing, the next exhalation arrives. You play the next note in the sequence. Also, I like that it's even better than the counting because you move away from the verbal part of your mind. You move into a non-thinking, in terms of labeling things, part of your mind. And sound is a way to be able to do that. So there's a way for us to sort of get around the chatterbox of words, and pitch is one of those ways. That leads to one more meditation, which I just want to mention. If you stop for a moment, instead of focusing on the breath, I would like for you just to close your eyes and your mouth for one moment and try to listen to the ring that's happening in your ears right now. You may have to start with Anapana for a while before you get to that place, but there's a point when things get very calm and you can hear this very, very high-pitched vibration. And if you find that you can easily achieve that, that's another way of working away from the verbal part of the mind. You can be listening to that vibration. It's unchanging and it's always here. We just usually don't notice it. But you can use that instead of breath as a focus for your meditation practice. And again, if you're doing that, I wouldn't do the pitches and everything else. You're just taking in the vibration and becoming aware of it. And you don't even have to place your mind on the breath when you do that kind of thing. But the same sort of thing, if you find your mind has wandered away, you just catch it whenever awareness kicks in to tell you, hey, remember, we're listening in this case for the high pitch, and then you bring yourself back to it. Avoid all kinds of judgment. I really can't emphasize that enough. You can be very habitual with judgment and self-judgment and self-attack, and this is one of the ways that we cut through that. It's actually a practice to stop ourselves from taking that kind of self-attack point of view every time we find that we need to make a correction. You can make a correction without judgment. It actually clears up a lot of what you're able to do, becomes extremely skillful as you do your work. Okay, that's what we're going to do for meditation now in this session. So I think we're done with this part. Let's get out of here. Here in my building, it's an old factory. It's turned into set of lofts. So where people used to work, now they live and they play. And I thought it might be fun if we went together to one of my favorite places, this building. When you go up these stairs, which as you can see are kind of interesting, very raw stuff. You can see the old bricks from way back when they first built this thing, back in the 1930s. And you come up this last part right here. We arrive through this door and we come up to the roof. And I thought we might hang out up here for a while because it's got a really beautiful view. That's Atlanta right there. And it's what we see when we come up here. And I thought it might be fun for us to spend a little time together talking about play. So I thought this might be fun to come up here and sit on this roof and talk about play. And that's the word that distinguishes play, is it's fun. So this is an activity that immediately has an association of an emotional state with it. You could say, I enjoy XYZ, but it's another thing entirely to be in the state of fun. And I wanted to have some fun with you, even if the fun is just simply sitting up on my roof. Because play isn't so much about the thing I'm doing, but the state of mind in which I'm doing it. So for me, I'm playing right now. I'm on this roof. I'm under a little shade area. and it allows me to enjoy the weather. Particularly in these times, this is pretty special stuff because for once I'm out of my apartment. So I'm really glad to be sitting up here with you and to talk a bit about play. What is play? Is play sport? Well, it can be. We talk about playing a game, but even that tells us that there's a game, a thing to do, and then the state of mind in which we're doing it. And so I want to focus less on the concept of a game where there's a winner and a loser. Today, I really want to focus instead on the idea of the state of mind that we're in. That makes sense. This is a mindfulness session. And since you're a musician and you're used to playing music, and even that I want to talk about, I'd like to see if we can work on the mental state in which we're in while we play the music. Since my session is on free to play, I want you to think about what is the mental state of play and how could you adopt that mental state while you are making your music. I also want to talk about intention. Why are we playing? And what are required mental states or required emotional states, let's use that would be a better choice for us so that we can stay in a playful mode. One of the things important to play is the emotional state that you're in relation to safety or in relation to fear. And that will have a big effect on the way we think about making music. Because if I feel safe, I can risk things because I'm already not at the edge of my danger place. But if I'm already in a state of fear, it's very hard to go any further with the concept of risk. I'm already risking. That means that what would be ideal for us is if we can find some state of being that is innately safe so that we can test our limits without breaking ourselves. And actually, to me, that's going to be a critical piece for us understanding how to be a successful musician for our whole lives. It'll also change the way we practice because the first step that we take will be about either being in fear or not. What do I mean by that? When we practice, we enjoy it. We feel like we're doing something we like to do, play our instrument or sing or whatever kind of art you're making, you're preparing, and you're already making it, right? You're making the art. And the intention here of the practice session is to get better, to raise the level of the skill, to get better and better and better. And we'll repeat along the way so that we can get better with our repetition. We can get confident. We can count on our skill to be there and be ready to perform when push comes to shove in our performances, push comes to shove in our lesson or in our audition. And what do we want to be? We want to be really good at it. Maybe we even want to be perfect at it. And I would like to stop right there and encourage you to try to be the very best you can in your music making. I really want to emphasize that. To be the best you can possibly develop yourself to be. But I'm not going to go after this word perfect. As a matter of fact, the best teachers I've had have consistently said to me, there is no such thing as a perfect performance. And they're right. They're right for a lot of reasons. And the biggest one is because I'm a human being. And as a human being, I'm not perfect. But there are other reasons too. Each time I go to perform, I bring the me of that moment into the performance. So what makes some other moment more or less, quote, perfect than the previous one? It's who I was right then when I played. And if I played well, if I played at my very best, then one has just as much validity as the other. So what I'm trying to bring up is that there's a danger in a word that we use, which is perfectionism, which might not be understood when you first think about, hey, I'm just trying to get really good at this. I'd like to play that scale perfectly. Okay. What could possibly be wrong with being perfect? And I'm going to come back to the concept of intention. What is the reason that we're doing what we're doing? What am I doing? Why am I doing that? So once I had a friend and we were having coffee. He now lives in London. He's of Persian background and he's absolutely brilliant. And he made a sentence to me that really stopped me in my tracks. What he said was, you know, all perfectionism is born of shame. And when he said it, I knew right away he had said something that was incredibly important and absolutely true, and yet that I didn't know what he meant. So I said, you know, do a riff on that. Tell me what you're telling me. And he said, well, what is shame? And who do you need for shame? And I'd never asked that question before. Well, shame is this kind of self-guilt feeling. Feel bad. I did something. And he said, I go back to my question, who do you need to have shame? I said, me. And he said, and others. He said, you only need you for guilt. But to have shame, you've got to have other people around you. Because shame is this thing that comes from the perception of others judging you and seeing you not measure up. So if I do something, he said, that is bad, that I decide later I shouldn't have done that, I regret doing that, wish I hadn't done that, it led to a lot of bad outcomes, I can have some guilt about that. That is singular in its relationship. But for shame to happen, shame is societal or tribal. It can be my family or it can be a whole city. When they shame you, there's an implication there toward rejection. And that you didn't measure up in relation to what the society thinks you should have done. So when he said all perfectionism is born of shame, the first part of that to understand the shame is that others find you lacking. Why perfectionism? And so I asked him, what is perfectionism in relation to this shame idea? And he said, perfectionism is this kind of defense mechanism to make yourself appear perfect so that those other people don't find you lacking. In other words, if I can make you think that I'm performing perfectly, then there's no way you can bring shame on me. And the problem with that is that it means that the why am I doing what I'm doing? What am I doing? I'm trying to play very, very well, play perfectly. But the why I'm doing it is to avoid this kind of tribal rejection. So my intention, before I even start playing my first note, is driven from fear that you might reject me. And if you let that first step take you throughout a whole lifetime, you develop an interior culture that's based on this fear of rejection. And you pursue perfection more and more and more, but with this very unhealthy mental state, the mindfulness that could be there, which is innately open and risky, actually becomes closed and protective. So if I think about that, that means that what I'm trying to avoid is to sort of shield myself from shame. I'm trying to avoid that shield. And that means becoming vulnerable. That means dropping this shield and accepting risk that I might not actually play perfectly. In order to do that, I'm going to have to pursue something else. The first thing I said to you in relation to this was, I want you to be really good. I want you to get great on your instrument. I'd like for you to go as far as you possibly can in your artistic endeavors. I just don't want you to pursue perfectionism. And that means we need an alternative viewpoint. We need a way to frame this in a healthier way. And the word I'm going to choose for that will be excellence. And it's not just semantics, because I do want you to play in an excellent way. Not a perfect way, in an excellent way. And that means to play to the highest level
the fullest capacity of your skills and your talent, and to pursue your artistic standards to the very, very edge of what they can possibly be. And that means that you will have to constantly engage in risk, because you'll have to push yourself beyond the comfort zone of, I can be perfect inside this area. No, we're going to go beyond that area and then move your edge constantly out. That will allow you to be in a constant growth mode through your whole life, because maybe what you're focusing on at the beginning is just how quickly you can play a passage, but much later in your life, or maybe much earlier in your life, as you move beyond the how quickly could I play it, you might ask, how meaningfully can I play it? How can I work with the energies of those notes in such a way to make myself even more expressive than I had been before? How can I tell this tale of me through my art in a way that touches and enlivens and entertains and enriches someone else who's been hearing my art or experiencing my art? So excellence is going to be our word. And what will the intention of that excellence be? And this is where we move away from fear and toward love. Because I want the intention of my performing to be to give. The intention here will grow from the concept of generosity. So I want to take the gift that I've got, and I would like to pass this on to someone else. Actually, when we talk about growing up and being gifted, I think that we may not really understand what that means. I know that when I think about gifted, it means somebody who has a lot of talent. And so they're gifted, it comes naturally to them, and then I know, of course, they have to work on it. But what if it meant something else? What if it meant that, for whatever reason, they've been given this thing, like a gift, wrapped up, put inside their heart with a real desire to share it. And then their life turns into this journey of gifting, of giving it away. And I've begun to realize that this is actually the form of play that the artist is involved with. This is why sport isn't exactly the metaphor for artistic play, because you can be generous in a sport. Don't misunderstand me. I get that. It's that sports have a game that ends. I play this game, it's 60 minutes long of play, it ends. Or it's 9 innings. Or it's 18 holes on a golf course until somebody, even with the overtime, with the extra holes, somebody comes out one more than the other, one less than the other, and the game is over. Art is involved with continuing the game. It's this constantly going on game. You play a concert, it ends, but your giving doesn't end. You're in this constant state of taking the gift and giving it away. And that means that someone has to be there to receive it. And when they receive it, they receive your gift as an intake. So there's a process here, the output coming from you, the input going into their lives. What happens to them? They're grateful. The natural result of receiving a gift is to say thank you. So we say thank you. I'm in a state of gratitude for this gift. The irony is that they have the gift now inside them, and the gift may affect them, may change them. It's very possible that having the gift will not only enrich their lives, but change their lives. And artists, I think, go through a lot of suffering and work and sacrifice so that we can give the best gift possible. Now, if I'm giving out of fear, and the giving that I offer to you is one of, I hope you don't reject this. Here I am, please take it. That's one kind of giving. Or, here I am, don't attack me. Here I am, don't judge me. I don't have this open heart, which is the vulnerable heart. I'm not actually free. And I'm not in a playful state because I'm in a state of fear. So what I'd like to turn around and do is to go back to the very first step and to choose not to walk towards perfectionism. I'd like to choose a different path that takes me to the path of excellence. Instead of protecting myself, I want to be in a state of love and offering and sharing. Instead of being oriented toward me, I want to be oriented toward my gift going towards you. So I'm outward in my point of view. Also, as I develop myself, I want to make the nicest conceivable gift I can make. And that is now a completely different act. It's not making a nice gift so that you won't reject me. It's making a nice gift so that I can give it to you and so that it will give you joy. And as I give you that gift, as I offer the very best that I could possibly offer, what I know is more of this gift will come to me, because this is the weird thing about being an artist. The more you give away, the more there is to give. Because as you give and you open up this space, for whatever reason, what we're opening up is a bigger and bigger and bigger vessel inside ourselves to hold the gift that we are developing. And that seems to be an endless state if we can keep ourselves from walking down the path of fear. We can be more and more generous with our gift, and the world will be more grateful for receiving it. And also, and this is a very interesting thing, because what do they do when they receive the gift? They want to share it with someone else. They say to someone, have you heard the artist so-and-so? Have you heard the singer so-and-so? Do you know my favorite band so-and-so? I want to share it with you. You become a conduit for this gift to keep moving on, even if you yourself are not even a musician. You just tell somebody, this is my favorite playlist, and you've got to hear it. It's amazing. You've got to hear this band or this artist or this orchestra or this pianist. So that's why the game is continuous, because you're shifting the rules of that game. You're able to continue to offer and offer and offer, and other people continuously receive and say thank you. And this is the ecosystem of the artist. It's a really interesting idea that what seems to be able to happen is, I have a gift, I give it to you, you take the gift in, you say thank you, I say take more, you say thank you. And this constant giving and taking and enriching goes on and on and on, ad infinitum. Now I'd like to stop for a minute and ask if there can be any problems that come along with the giving. And I'd like to focus on the relationship that you might have with your colleagues. Maybe there's another student who's as good as you, or even maybe better than you, or who's improving quickly. Do they scare you? So fear just kicked in? Why might they scare you? Do they scare you because they might leap over you, or they already have, and time is going on and you can't keep up with them? So one of the dangers that comes along with this playful quality is the relationship that we have with those around us who are doing the same thing. Because there can be this natural selfishness that kicks in to say, wait, I want to be the one to be giving. I want to be the one. And what's more, even a greed. I want to be the only one. The greed of, I have to be the best. I go back to the snowflake idea because it's an illusion to think about best. Every snowflake is its own being. Every artist is, and you know that. And yet it's so easy to trick ourselves. It's so easy to get into the mode of, wow, they won that audition and I didn't, and somehow that makes me sad. Somehow that makes me feel empty. Somehow that makes me feel in a poverty state of mind. I don't have. And so the practice that we begin to develop is a practice of comparison. I take my life and I compare it to somebody else's. And then as I do that, I keep measuring, how am I in these two things? Am I on top or am I below? And as I go through that constant comparison game, I lose sight of the fact that I'm a different snowflake than that person. And there's no way that I can compare one with the other. Now you might be saying, well, I can tell you, sir, there is a way, and it's called auditions. You're right. Somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose an audition. That isn't what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the state of mind of greed and selfishness that places me in a position of fear that someone else might get what I want and that I somehow can't take any joy in that. So in a very old tradition, there's something which is a set of practices around love. It's actually a set of understandings. They even call them states of being. One is loving kindness, being really kind and loving to everyone you meet, regardless of their behavior, regardless of their station in life, regardless of whether they're rich or poor or famous or not, or in your neighborhood, or whether they speak your language, or whether they look like you, or whether they don't, or whether they worship in a different way or not at all. It's just loving kindness to all other beings. State one. State two is compassion. And that is to be able to look at other people and see their suffering and take that suffering on as your own in terms of your ability to empathize with the suffering and really to enter into it with the other person. So I see you're in pain, and because I see the unity of all beings, your pain is also my pain. Third state of being is what's called sympathetic joy. This will help you a lot in your auditions and in your relationship with the other musicians. It is, I see you are happy, and in the same way that I felt in unity with all beings in relation to compassion, I am in unity with all beings in the sense that they all want to be happy. That means you're happy, and therefore I am happy. You won the audition. I am happy for your happiness. You got the chair. I am happy for your happiness. You got the job I didn't get. I am happy for your happiness. This is sympathetic joy. This takes discipline. The last state, by the way, is equanimity. And it is the state of being able to be calm and not having to choose between what you like and what you don't like as having a preference. You can just say, I can be with things as they are. And this means that if someone is acting like a jerk to me, I can still have loving kindness. It means, and be calm. It means if someone is in pain, I can feel compassion for them and remain calm and centered. And if someone is deliriously happy, I can be happy for their happiness and yet retain my sense of equanimity, my sense of still being in my seat, still being calm. Now, why did I teach this to you in relation to play? Because the state of play means some people are going to move ahead and some people are going to have a bad day and some people are going to have a great day. Some people will be in the zone on Monday and be out of the zone on Tuesday, and equanimity will help as you go through that experience if it's you, or it'll help if it's your best friend and you can still be a friend to them. You'll be in loving kindness to all these people around you, whether someone else has developed themselves or not. You'll be able to sit with your friend who didn't get the chair and feel their pain in equanimity. And you'll also be able to sit with a person who didn't think they were going to get principal second, and suddenly they did. They had really had a great audition and they got it, and you can say, good for you, and actually mean it. Because there's nothing worse than saying good for you, when inside you're thinking, why wasn't it me? Why wasn't it me? And so we work at this in two different ways. We work on excellence so that you have the best chance you can to win the position, to develop to the point that you do get the job, to make the art at the highest level possible. And we focus on process to do that. And we don't get stuck in the outcome. We don't get stuck with at the end of the game who won or who didn't. We stay in the place of development. We stay in the game playing, the play playing. And on the other side, we release the outcomes and we move into a place of acceptance. We move into a place of saying, wasn't my day, wasn't the chair for me to get. I just have to go back in the practice room and work again. It's okay. It's right where I am right now. You have a real chance in living a life as an artist to do more than practice your instrument. You have a chance to practice living, to practice life itself. The art offers so many ways for you to face truth about what it is to be a human being, to be vulnerable, to be flawed, to be scared. And a chance for you to test yourself by exploring risk. And you have a chance to grow, an endless journey of growth, not only as an artist, but as a complete human being. And the interesting thing about that is that as you take that journey, it somehow informs the way you play. Somehow it changes the wisdom you bring to a melody, to a chord, to a voicing, to a tempo. We begin to hear the soul underneath the melody. This is why sometimes we speak about music as saying, I like the noise it makes. There's music at the sound level, but there's music underneath the sound level. There's meaningful music that is only heard inside the soul. And the artist takes that interior thing, whatever that is, and brings it into reality so that others can benefit from it. That's the journey of being a musician. To play means to be free. We want to be free to play, free of all the things we talked about last time, but also free of the wrong intention. What we really want to do is to be free to love and to use our art and the gifts that we've developed as the way we can convey that love to the rest of the world. Thanks for being with me today. What a pleasure to talk with you about being free and about being in a state of play. And I want you to know I wish you the very best in your own journey away from fear and toward love.
There were lots of ways to go up, weren't there? You could climb. You could go through a little gate like this. Are you having fun remembering this? To re-experience what you used to do when you remembered how to play before somebody told us how serious life was. Oh, boy. Look at that. Look what we just did. That's the risk of childhood in a nutshell.